Hey gang, this is Michael Strauntz and I'm the owner of Lucky Lure Tackle, and this is my 2025 IKON VLX-21. So I've only had this boat a short time and I've got all kinds of questions from people. Every time I show up to a boat ramp, I'm traveling at gas stations, I get a lot of questions about the boat. So I thought we'd take the time to make this video so everybody could see it and get a little bit more detail on the new VLX. All right, so let's start at the back of the boat. So when you get an IKON, you're very fortunate to get the opportunity to pick between 3 different motors. You can get a Mercury. For 2025, they're gonna let you get a Suzuki, or you can go the route I went. I went with the Yamaha Show. The Show, for me, I've had Yamahas for several years. They're dependable. I really like them. I will tell you, if you do decide to go with that, you're gonna lose a mile an hour or 2 if you don't go with the Mercury. I'm not concerned about it because this thing rides great in rough water. I chose to go with the power pull blades. You can go with Minn Kota as well. There's a lot of options that IKON's gonna give you when you're picking out some of your accessories. Furthermore, I went with the Atlas jack plate. You can go with an Atlas jack plate or you can go with the Bob's jack plate. I went with Atlas. That's just based off of my experience. When we look at the back deck, one of the things that caught my attention right out of the gate was the way that these hatches work on the back gate, or back hatch. If you can look inside here, first of all, the way the hatch opens, for those of you that have been in bass boats for a long time, you know you want to be able to work on the boat from inside the boat and the outside. There's nothing more frustrating than if you're out on the water and you have problems being able to get to the boat. Not only do you have the T-wings, the way this opens up, there's also a spring load in the back here. You can pop those and pop this off and the whole lid comes off if you needed to. If you want to talk about space, the space in the back of these things are absolutely amazing. There was a lot of thought that went into these. You get the power pull pumps that are mounted right here. And then I went with lithium batteries, and 2 of my 100 amp 12 volt ionic lithium batteries are in here. I still have room for a tool bag. I've got an anchor back here. Just a law in some states. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but this is where it pumps in the G-juice for you, which is pretty amazing. When we get to the front console, I'll talk about that a little bit more. So now we've come to the other side of the back. As you can tell, the hatch opens the exact same way as on the passenger side. When you look inside here, what you're gonna see is the additional space, the space that they've created. These things there's a lot of thought that goes into them. One thing I want to point out right away is that how many boats can you take your hand and run along the inside of the rail, or the hatch, not the hatch, the compartment area, where you don't get anything on your hands. There's not a lot of fiberglass. It's as smooth as on the top. If you look inside, I went with ionic batteries again. Again, we're going with lithium. You can see that we have the LED light on. We have those in every hatch or every compartment in the boat. You have a lot of different options that IKON gives you. I use the power pull charge. I like the idea of being able to charge on the fly while you're out and running. And it also gives you the opportunity to change where the charge goes to as your outboard motor. With all your newer style motors, they have an alternator that's going to charge a lot more. And I want the ability to simply get on my phone and control with an app where that charge is going to. One of the things that IKON really stakes their name on is the wiring system. From the back of the boat to the front of the boat is 8-gauge wire. That's huge for all you electronic buffs out there. You know how important that is. That also prevents you from having to spend extra money when you get your boat to have it rigged, to have any new wiring put on. If you look inside, up against the outer firewall here, this is the yacht style that they have here for all your switches. You got a switch for your trolling motors. This yacht style fuse bank is top of the line. It's going to be something that other manufacturers, I'm sure, are going to pick up on. So that's really important. If you look on the inside of this compartment, down here, you can see how easy it would be to get to your pumps, whether it's your bilge pumps, your live well pumps, whatever the case may be. Being able to change those cartridges will be really, really quick. Everything inside this compartment is really clean, very manageable, and it gives you plenty of extra space. Now that we've covered the very back, let's take a look at the storage and the live wells in this boat. Okay, now the storage. And the great thing about here on the IKON, the storage is the same on the driver's side as it is on the passenger side. You can see this is a pretty deep storage area. And again, it doesn't matter where you put your hand on this area, it's clean. It's just some of that detail. You can tell the detail in the trim. You can tell how deep these valleys are. And that's gonna keep the water from getting inside. That's just a really big deal. I went ahead and mounted my Bubba scale. You can accessorize your boat any way you want to. That's just one of the things that I've done so far. Again, it has the light. I think that's important for those early morning launches, those late evening tackle preps. Just having that extra light is a really big deal. So when people think about IKON, one of the first things they think about is the live well system. IKON has completely revolutionized the way that this live well system works. On the lid itself, you can see right out of the gate, something different here. Okay, so the purpose for this is that when this is flush with the live well itself, the water completely fills all the way to the top of the live well. That's not something you see in other boats. That's gonna keep the fish from getting harmed, bouncing around, whatever the case may be. I can tell you I've only had the boat a short time, but I've had it out several times already, and I've fished in a few different tournaments. It's interesting when you open this live well, I've actually had fish that were suspended in the water instead of at the very bottom. So clearly there's something to it. I apologize for the mess. You know, we've got some crawfish remains down here, minnow remains and everything else, but that's what happens when you're catching fish. But the blue on here is more than just a pretty color. They've actually worked with a lot of different saltwater fishermen, guys that try to keep live bait alive, and for any of you that know, it's very difficult to keep some of that bait alive, and they have found that this blue keeps them more calm for whatever reason, and it 100% works. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the G juice. You saw the pump earlier, and you can hold up to 1 gallon of G juice. So what that works with is a button here on the console. I'm gonna go over, this all deals with the pump in, the pump out, and everything of the live well. And I will tell you, I work closely with IKON on getting the details on this, because when I first purchased the boat, there's not an owner's manual per se that came with it. So I'm gonna go over it for any of you guys that do have a VLX and you don't know, well, you will now know. So this is where we're gonna talk about the actual, what each button does for the live well system. When you push this button right here, that activates your recirculation and your G juice. Your light is blue. What that will do is that will fill your live well, and it will recirculate the water in the live well. When this button is green for your G juice, that will, and you will have to look for the specific, but I believe it's put in 3/4 of an ounce every hour. But they already have it set at the factory, so we'll have to check to see what that is. Now, you can hit this button again, and all that does is maintain the fill. There's no recirculation or anything that goes on. And then it turns it off. Now, if we turn it back on, we're back in the same position we just spoke about. Down here, this is nothing more than a billage for your boat, to billage out of the boat itself, although it has automatic billage as well that works really well. This is a pump out for the live well. The next thing I'm gonna show you is on the side of the boat where the pump out is and how it works. When you turn your pump out on, right here is where the pump out comes out at. So you can do a couple of different things. You can hang your bag right here, and then there's a hose that connects, and I don't have the hose with me this evening, but it's simple, in, twist, and it locks. And you can literally take that hose and dump it into your bag, or even up at the live well if you choose to. You have a couple different options, or without the hose, which is what I've been doing, you just let it pump out like any other pump out does. But it does give you the option of doing it and not having to get out of the boat if you run the hose into the boat. So it is a pretty neat feature. Since we're already here in the cockpit area, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of it. First of all, you can see these seats are absolutely amazing. I had a Ranger before I had the IKON. I love my Ranger, so there's no shade to be thrown there. But these seats are absolutely amazing. I like how they come up and wrap around you, and I also like how they handle rough water. These are absolutely a quality seat, so that's something I've really enjoyed so far. We've already spoken a little bit about how the live well works and all the different buttons for there. On the other side, it's pretty self-explanatory. You have the horn, you have your navigational lights for your boat, which I chose to have a power pole light put on, so when I'm tournament fishing, That's one less thing I have to do in the morning, and so far that's been absolutely amazing. Right here, you'll see this button right here. This is an air dryer. What you have is you've got a vent in each of your compartments, and when I push this button, you're probably going to be able to hear it start running, and that is simply blowing air through all the compartments within the boat. So when you get your boat wet, and we've all fished in the rain, that's going to help dry it out, get rid of that mildew and that nasty smell. The accessory lights are the lights, any lights outside the compartments, which we have lights on both sides at the bottom that light up. And this button here is your compartment lights. All the compartment lights are on. When we come over a little bit further, and it depends on which jack plate you have. Of course, I have the Atlas jack plate. You have the Atlas jack plate gauge. You have the mode gauge here. It's basically, this gauge will run you through everything. It says we have 78% fuel. Our batteries are at 13.2. The air temperature is 84 degrees. That's the hours. We have 18 hours on the boat so far. That's nautical miles, your trip, your RPM when the boat's running, your GPS coordinates, your trim, again, a temperature, and we go back to the beginning. And when the boat is running, the actual RPMs will line up through here. You'll just get that line like you used to in the old cars, and it'll come around to your RPM. So that's kind of an all-in-one gauge. If we move further down along the same side, right here you have a phone charger. And I promise you, you are gonna fall out of the boat way quicker than a phone's gonna come out of this thing. This thing locks into place, and when it locks in, it does a great job. Here you have chargers, which are a charging station, which is really nice. You got two of them there. And then above that, you have the traditional cigarette lighter that you can plug something in to charge with as well. And then of course, your key for your motor. Down here, I went with the hot foot. Again, it's a standard option, but it is an option if you choose not to have it. It's a must for me. Right here, this is where I chose to mount my power pole switch for the cockpit area. And then right back here, this is another neat feature for us more elderly. You have the out and the in. This is for your plug for the boat. So in, obviously your plug's in, out, your plug is out. This right here is for your live wells. Anytime this is open, when you are recirculating, you're recirculating water from the lake. When you fill the live well and you close this, your recirculation is strictly in the live well, not outside in the lake water. The dry storage here, as you can see, there's a lot of storage in here. It's kind of a mess. We just spent the last week in Minnesota and then came back and did some fishing back in Oklahoma already. So I'm not as organized as I normally am, but this is in fact dry storage. It's a great step for your co-anglers. You can see in the well deck of the boat, this is not sea deck, it's something similar. I love it. I think it's great. The well deck of a boat never stays dry. It's always a problem. Carpet always wears out the fastest. With this material here, you're gonna get a lot of years with no problem. Next thing we're gonna take a quick look at is over on the passenger side here. You can see this is a single console. Matter of fact, any VLX you see out there right now is probably a single console because they've just come out with the dual console, the second console. I've got one that's gonna be coming relatively soon. It's gonna mount right here. There's gonna be a pretty easy in and out process of doing that. Once we get it in, we'll do an update to this so you guys can see it. There's a lot of room over here for the co-angler to set and store their rods and reels. Up to this point, I've had co-anglers bring in up to 8 rods with no problem whatsoever. The neat thing about this is on the back where the co-angler latches their rods, you can actually push that back through if you're not using it into this area right here, and it just stays out of your way. Otherwise, their rods are not gonna get hurt. There's places for them to do it, and there's enough depth for the rods, for 2 rods very comfortably to set in every one of these compartments except for one. And as we're over here on the passenger side, it reminded me of one thing we forgot to mention when we were in the cockpit is the stereo. The stereo is amazing. It's Bluetooth. It's very small and compact. It's right up underneath where the charging station is for the phone. It gives you a lot of different options, and the sound's amazing. We've been running on the 60s, in the 60s on plane, running across the water with the stereo up, still being able to hear it. So it's got a loud, clear sound when you want it, but it's very, very crisp. It Bluetooth to your phone, and it gives you a lot of options. While we're still in the cockpit, I do want to talk about the cooler. The cooler, you know, it has the same surface, the same material as your dry storage, but when you open this thing, you can look in here. This thing is deep and it holds a lot of water. Matter of fact, a lot of ice and a lot of drinks. I think it was about a week ago, IKON did a short little video after I sent it to them. I had, you know, here in Oklahoma in the summertime, it's in the 100, you know, it's 100 degrees during the day. I put ice in on a Thursday before a Thursday night jackpot and had drinks in here. I came out Saturday morning to leave to go fishing, and there was still ice left in it. So this thing has got a Yeti style insulation. I mean, it really keeps things cold, and that ice lasts a long time. The next thing we have right here around the cooler area is the storage for all your tools, you know, your pliers, your different kinds of pliers, your scissors. One thing I like about what IKON did is they put the bump board right there. It's easy to access. It's not in the way. You can pull it out, you can bump a fish, you can throw it back in with no problem. You're not wasting a bunch of time trying to locate it. It's just in and out, which makes it really nice. Now let's go move to the front deck and take a look there. So as we move to the front deck, the first thing I want to talk about is the center storage. This thing has got storage for days. You've probably seen videos already of people climbing out of them and things like that. I mean, it's no joke. It's the real deal. And these things are solid. The lids are all aluminum, and you can see they're reinforced. I added these lights myself. You can actually pay for an upgrade and have IKON put different lights in as well. You can see other light. You have the lights that come standard with them as well. You can look down in here and you can see the storage. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15 regular boxes and a big box for plastics. And we haven't even begun to touch the amount of room that you've got in here. You can buy attachments, so you can do double rows. There's a lot of things you can do, but you're not going to run out of storage. If you're running out of storage, you probably need to rethink the way you're packing when you go out on your fishing trips. The next thing we're going to talk about is the rod locker storage in this boat. The rod locker storage is just as massive as the regular storage. As you can see, there is a ton of storage inside this thing, and it'll hold a rod up to, I think, 8 foot 10 inches, I believe. It's somewhere between 8'9" and 8'11", somewhere in there. I think it's 8 foot 10. Long rod. The thing I like about this is it doesn't have the cylinders in the end, so you can stack them in here as like cordwood as much as you want to. I also like that on the back side here, if you'll take a look at the very back of the way the rods are set up, they have the lips, so you could actually do 3 different stair step of rods, and it'll help keep them separated going to and from the lake and on the run. And again, I'll point out, just like I did with the other the other compartment spaces, are the valleys in here where all of the water can drain. You have drain areas in each one of them. These things are going to be dry even in rough water. The seals are not just kind of partially put in there. They are in there solid. And again, you can look at the attention to detail. You can run your hand around this thing as much as you want, and you're not going to get splinters from fiberglass or anything else, because when they do this, they do it right. And just for the inquiring minds, on this side right here, it's the same as the other side. One thing I will point out is at the very back of this is where the electronics, your black boxes for your stereo, your Hummingbird, your Garmin, all of that bolts in right here and wires right up, so it's all in one place, and you can access everything very easily from here. But again, as you can see, these are quality aluminum lids. These latches are no joke. These things are going to last a long time. Your gas shocks are pretty standard among all boats, but you can just tell this thing is solid. This is meant to last a person a long time. Now this is where, if I was not taken before, this is where I really was all bought in on the IKON and the VLX. This front deck stays wide. In the world of forward-facing sonar, like it, dislike it, or wherever the case may be, there's probably not a better team boat made out there, because the width of this front deck, you and your partner can be up front. You have the trolling motor here. If you're not on a trolling motor, one person can be standing here and the other one be standing there and literally be casting and not being in each other's way. I can't tell you how important it is. For those of you that are tournament anglers, you already know what I'm talking about. In the mornings, when you get a co-angler, especially someone that's not used to being in your boat, picking them up at the dock can be a challenge sometimes. Trying to get the boat maneuvered, all the other boats running around. You can literally take this boat and run it nosed into the dock, and they can literally step right here on this step and step in. Now keep in mind, these are two 12-inch screens. I have a 12-inch Garmin and I have a 12-inch Humminbird, and you can walk straight in here, not stepping on anything, not stepping over everything. It's clean and it's very efficient, and I think that's real important. I'll point out on the front here, you have the, and this is somewhat standard on some boats, but you have the tilt and trim switch for your motor right here, so when you're fishing down the bank and you know the motor starts to drag or whatever, you can go up. I chose to put my power pole switches, my stomp switches, further forward. I put them where I used to on my previous boat, and I found that I was stepping on them because you can step so much further forward when you're fishing in this boat. So I actually put them up here, easy access, they're out of the way. Person getting in a boat's not going to step on them, and it's really nice. One of my favorite accessories on the boat has already become this new Minn Kota Ultrex, the Quest. I can't tell you how much lighter this is from the old Ultrex. I love some of the features it has. When you engage it and put it into the water, it immediately points straight forward. When you bring it back up to put it back in to lock it down, it immediately goes into the position, whether you have it set for prop out or prop in. It goes in position, you drop it. Kudos to Minn Kota, they really did good on the upgrade on that thing. The final piece of the puzzle here is the trailer. And I did spend a little bit more money with the upgraded trailer. That gives you this step here. And one thing I want to point out about the steps, some of the aftermarket steps that you can put on, I had aftermarket on my Ranger. I had the trick step and it worked fine. No shade there whatsoever. But the thing I like about this one is how in line it is with the trailer. You're a lot less likely to jackknife. It's not in the way as much. It's really nice to have it where it's at. The trailer itself is pretty basic, and I like basic. For those of you that have had boats for any length of time, the more you have on a trailer, the more issues you have. I did go with the upgraded wheels. I went with the black upgraded wheels on here with the 18-inch tires. I've been real happy with the look and how it's performed so far. Before we wrap this up, there's a couple things I want to point out. First of all, I am in no way sponsored by IKON. I paid for this every penny like the next person will. They're not paying me to do this. I've got an amazing cameraman that works for me in the store. If you look him up, he's hinklefishing.com. I call him J-Red. He's kind of my guy. He does quality work. I wouldn't want anybody else doing this for me. All that said, there are a couple things I have found that I would like to have seen different. The first thing is on the rod lockers. We showed the rod lockers earlier. If you notice, there wasn't a day box. I think IKON missed on that one. I think there should be a day box in here. I'm gonna work with aftermarket and come up with something that's nothing you can't live without, but it would have been nice. The other thing, and I'm gonna work on this as well on my own, is I'm gonna have my trailer wrapped. As pretty as this trailer looks, clean. A painted trailer, and a lot of the roads in America today with rock chips and everything else, I think you're just gonna have to constantly be working on touch-up paint. I think for 2025, IKON has already remedied that, and they're gonna give you the option of the Under Armour, the Road Armor type coating on it. I think I'm just gonna have my trailer wrapped. Again, it looks beautiful the way it is. I wish I didn't have to, but you know, having this boat for just a couple of months now, I've already had to do a little touch-up paint here and there. It's not a big deal, but just for the longevity of the trailer. I appreciate you coming along for this. You can check out, we did a video before when we were actually doing the break-in on the boat, and there's gonna be a couple other videos hitting our channel. Be sure to come by and visit it. We appreciate it. Everybody have a great evening.